Hi, I'm Mark Ayler and I'm a Sony Digital Imaging Ambassador. Welcome to my preview of Sony's RX1R Mark III camera. Now this is a premium specialist camera and it isn't going to make a lot of sense for all photographers. Just as with Leica's M6 35mm analog camera, it is going to be for the specialist photographer, where budget is not their primary concern. Now there has been a growing demand for the RX1R Mark II camera. It was for sale right at the beginning of January 2025, but quickly went out of stock, and the used prices has been climbing, not declining. For somebody who bought the RX1R Mark II camera, you're looking at a depreciation of only $75 per year over the last 10 years. So it is quite a remarkable camera, and it does show you that Sony really created a classic in this compact full-frame market here. Sony has basically revisited this. Just a little bit of a history here. The original RX1 first arrived in 2012 with a 24 megapixel full frame sensor. The following year, in 2013, they removed the low pass filter and created the RX1R camera. These cameras had contrast detect autofocus only, with only 25 focus points, so AF, especially for moving subjects, wasn't its forte, and there was no electronic viewfinder. It didn't really adopt its classic status until the RX1R Mark II in 2015. They used the 42.4 megapixel backside illuminated sensor, and it did include that pop-up finder, which was quite a high optical resolution for that time. The resolution did allow photographers using the RX1R Mark II camera to use a 1.4 or 2 times smart teleconverter feature, because we had resolution to spare. So we could basically crop in camera to get the 49mm or 70mm full frame equivalent angle of view when using this particular camera. But we could only do this when shooting JPEGs, not in the RAW file format. This, as I said, did become a classic compact camera, which has been in high demand for second-hand shoppers. And that's primarily because of that 42 megapixel full frame Exmor-R backside illuminated sensor, also married to the Zeiss Sonnar T-Star 35mm f2 lens with a leaf shutter. Using these RX1R II cameras in 2025, there are a few negatives. There is no subject recognition, and the AF predates real-time AF tracking that arrived in 2019. They're using the pre-2020 menus with no touch functionality on those menus. There's no 4K movies. It's a UHS 1 slot, so no SD XC2 cards can be used. Well, you can't access the performance advantages of those cards. It's got a slow USB 2 in-out, no Bluetooth, no APS-C mode in RAW. We could only use that smart tele feature for a 1.4 or 2 times crop in JPEG, no zone AF area, and perhaps the biggest pain point here was the NP-BX1 battery, which only provided as much power as 30 minutes in some instances where the camera is in constant use. So a lot of the RX1R II photographers will go out with a pocket full of spare batteries to be using, maybe as many as 4 if I'm shooting all day. When I created an RX1R II review in the beginning of 2025, because I was thinking of buying a second-hand copy myself, I put forward the question, if Sony were going to create an RX1 Mark III in 2025, and they decided to include the NP FZ100 or Z series battery, and also included the steady shot inside, they'd basically grow the camera as big as their Alpha 7CR camera. So I thought, what's the point there? Obviously the premium advantage of this RX1 camera is its physical size being a lot smaller than the Alpha 7CR. So I wasn't too sure whether we'd ever see a third generation of this RX1R camera. Enter 2025, and I'm pleased to see that the third version of this RX1R camera is actually a little bit lighter and not too much bigger than the Mark II version, as we'll see. We are now using the sensor, the 60 megapixel sensor from the A7R5 and A7CR. So we now have that fast AF and also the AI subject recognition, courtesy of that AI chip inside the body now. We're also getting the access to that larger W series battery, not the Z series battery, but the battery that predates that, the W series battery. But that is going to give a significant improvement to battery life for the RX1R Mark III owners here. We do have that AI processing unit, and so we're going to get ultra reliable acquisition and then focus tracking from this RX1R Mark III model. Now, interestingly, the Smart Tele feature has been renamed to the step crop shooting function. We can now shoot with that similar 1.4 times and 2 times in-camera crop, but it's a non-destructive crop when we're shooting in the raw file format, in that we can uncrop the image in our post-production editing software. So we're going to get 60 megapixels if we're shooting with the 35mm angle of view. If we go into that 1.4 times tele feature, we're getting that 50mm angle of view. We're going to be down to 29 megapixels. And if we're using that 2 times teleconverter, we're going to be shooting with a 70mm angle of view, and we're down to 15 megapixels. But given that 4K is 8.3 megapixels, we've still got resolution to spare even at the 2 times crop. And remember, if we're shooting in RAW, we can uncrop the images in our post-production editing software. Using a fixed 35mm lens is not going to be for everyone, but those who have tried this, especially street photographers, they know that they can zoom with their legs. Here I am at this particular vantage point with the RX1R Mark II, and then if I want the detail shots, I just zoom with my feet to get closer. So I can get those differences of viewpoint there just by using my legs. Now, interestingly, this is another shot with the RX1R Mark II, because as I said, this is a preview video. I don't yet have the RX1 Mark III, and that review will come a little bit later. But the F2 aperture on that 35mm Zeiss lens does give us figure ground separation when shooting half-length portraits, as you can see in this image captured with the maximum aperture F2. If we were to use one of those crops, in-camera crops, the 1.4 or 2 times crop, we can see that we can get a 50mm or 70mm tighter angle of view, maybe a tight head and shoulder shot, and we've still got that a good figure ground separation, and we've got plenty of optical resolution on that 35mm Zeiss lens to render pin sharp images even when cropped. If we are using that 35mm angle of view, we don't really have to stop down too far beyond f2 to get depth of field that will cover our entire screen when we're shooting street photography with full-length portraits or people in the street. In this particular example, again with the RX1R Mark II, shooting at f2.8, and we've pretty much got corner to corner sharpness. 2015 to 2025, we're looking at the 42.4 megapixels, and that camera used to retail at around $3.3 thousand US back in 2015. Now it seems to have taken a bit of a price hike, just over $5,000, but remember we've got tariffs in the US adding to that value. And if we look at the real-time value between 2015 and 2025, it's about the same value if we take into account the inflation and also the US tariffs that are now in place. Looking at that weight, 1.11 pounds or 507 grams for the camera in 2015, you'll see that we're about 9 grams lighter. So that's pretty incredible. And as you can see from the physical size, it's just a little bit higher, but it's exactly the same width. So we've got same width, similar height, and less weight on the 2025 model. And given that we've managed to squeeze in that much larger W series battery, that's fairly impressive, I think. I don't think there's a lot of air inside the body of these particular cameras. So slightly greater depth. Obviously they've been squeezing that larger battery and maybe the AI processing chip in, and maybe a few more electronics into that. So the depth of the body has grown just a smidgen there. And you can see that it's still the classic compact. Nothing really comes very close to this particular full frame compact camera that includes a viewfinder. Now, one of the downsides of the new model, however, is we've lost the tilting monitor that we found on the version 2 model there. Now, for traditional street photographers who will only use the viewfinder, that's probably not a great loss. But I have to say, I do a few low angle shots myself. And so I am going to have to sort of get down onto the ground to get those low angle shots rather than using that tilt screen. Now I can only speculate why we've lost that tilt screen. Maybe it's that fixed viewfinder there rather than the pop-up viewfinder. Maybe that just fouls the ability of that screen to tilt, but I'm really only guessing at this point. Now on my RX1R Mark II, I could use the pop-up viewfinder, but I also had the FDA-EV1MK, and that's a tilting viewfinder. Now if that was to work on the RX1R Mark III, I'd be really happy, because I do like to be looking down sometimes on the camera rather than looking straight across at my subject. It just allows me to go undercover a little bit more. When people don't think that I'm actually looking at them, I'm looking down on the camera. If the older flipping viewfinder doesn't actually work on the new model, I'm hoping that Sony will revisit that and design a new tilting viewfinder for this camera. And as you can see from this low angle shot, I would have been using the tilting viewfinder on this one on my RX1R II, but I'm going to have to basically kneel down on the ground in order to get this type of low angle shot with the RX1R Mark III. Now if you want to look at this particular full frame compact camera in relation to size with other cameras, you see how well Sony do to keep the form factor of this camera really so small. It is in fact a unique form factor, so you're not going to find anything of the same size out there. Here it is alongside the Fujifilm popular X100 Mark VI there. Remember, that is an APS-C camera, and that is significantly larger than the full frame camera Sony has designed. If we look at the Leica Q3 you'll see that that camera also uses 60 megapixels, I'm guessing here, but I suspect it's probably the same sensor as we find in the RX1R Mark III camera. But you can see that the Leica is $2,200 more expensive than the RX1R. They've both got very good quality f2 lenses there. So you're looking at a 43mm focal length on the Leica and a 35mm on the Sony. I don't think that's going to be a huge deciding factor. I think it's going to come more down to the premium badge of the Leica compared to the Sony. Now if we look at the top view of that Leica, you can see that it is quite a lot bigger. It weighs in at 1.7 pounds or 772 grams, so it's significantly larger and heavier than that Sony RX1R Mark III camera. I've just dropped in a AA battery so you can see how small we're actually getting with that RX1R Mark III camera there. So we're looking at 60 megapixels on the RX1R III. We can also get that same sensor in the Alpha 7CR, and we're going to pay a lot less money. If we add a 40mm f2.5 prime lens to that, we can see that we can get that resolution of that sensor with a good quality lens for $3,800 rather than 5.1. So again, it really comes down to, do you really want that fixed 35mm Zeiss lens in a smaller form factor there? If we take a look at the RX1R II, remember the new one is about the same physical size alongside an Alpha 7C2 or Alpha 7CR camera, you can see that it is quite a lot smaller. You really have to really hold one of these cameras to appreciate how small these RX1R cameras actually are in the hand. Now, of course, one thing you're getting with that RX1R III, and I think it's a big bonus, is that 35mm Zeiss T-Star Sonnar lens. It's an f2 lens with a leaf shutter. Now some people I've already noted are saying, well, why didn't the lens get an update? I actually don't think this lens needed an update, and there's probably a number of reasons why Sony decided to keep this 35mm Zeiss. Interestingly, there hasn't been Zeiss releases for new Sony cameras for many years, but we are seeing a revival of this Zeiss lens on the RX1R Mark III. Now, one of the reasons that they might be keeping this particular lens is because each lens has to be matched individually with the sensor. And I think that with the RX1R II camera, this was only done in the Japanese factory, not farmed off to China or Thailand. So this is a precision bit of alignment that needs to take place, and that is one of the reasons this is a premium camera at a premium price. Sony are describing this as micron precision layout adjustment made for every single camera unit there. Now, one of the interesting things about having a lens with a leaf shutter is we're not restricted to the 1/250th or 1/160th of a second maximum sync speed. Here is the RX1R camera shooting with that sync speed we often see on regular cameras. But if I decide to use a 1/4000th of a second sync speed on the RX1R III, I can basically lower the ambient lighting conditions by and underexpose those ambient conditions by at least 2 stops just by using those incredibly fast sync speeds courtesy of the leaf shutter on this 35mm Zeiss lens. One of the other great things about this 35mm Zeiss lens is it's got macro capability. Not 1:1 macro capability, but we can certainly get in really quite close for a close focusing distance here. So if we're looking at maybe some flowers and we want to go in and take a picture of just the head of a flower at the minimum distance, if we want to go even closer, we just turn the ring behind the focusing ring to the sort of the macro mode there, and then we can get in real close. As I said, it's not really macro in that it's not 1:1 or even approaching half macro 0.5, but it does allow you to get very, very close to a lot of the subject matter you're photographing. The optical performance of this lens, as I said, is excellent, and a lot of people are big fans of this lens. So again, looking at examples of the RX1R II, because it's using the same lens, if I just basically zoom in, we've got lots of detail to revel in there. And as I said, we can use this as a smart teleconverter feature, or step cropping as it's now known. If I take a look at this particular example, also captured with the Mark II version, and go into sort of 1:1 view, you can see the eyelashes on this particular woman. They're incredibly sharp, and so we're not going to be critical of this particular lens in terms of optical sharpness, I don't think. So with that street photography, we can go full length, half length, and head and shoulders just by using that in-camera crop. And we do have that option to uncrop in post if we want to change our minds later. So Sony are releasing a few accessories to go with this. We've got a body case, so we've got a thumb grip and a lens hood. Now, knowing Sony, these are going to be quite steep in their price point, and they're not going to be purchased by everyone. But I dare say companies like SmallRig, etc., will get accessories onto the market at a much more affordable price if you're not prepared to pay for the premium quality, premium price Sony versions of this. Now I've got a little bit of a comparison chart here. Obviously the RX1R II, its real only advantage here is the flipping screen over the current version. But of course, a lot of people will be saying, well, I could get really what I need from the Alpha 7 CR, because we do have a few advantages in the fact that we're using a Z series battery. We have the in-body image stabilization, which was probably only not added to the RX1R III because of size, and Sony really wanted to keep the size the same as the previous versions. So just pause the movie if you want to take a look at that in detail. Obviously there'll be information about all the specifications on the stores such as B&H and Sony's own website. So if you're looking for a little bit of extra support, I will probably get around to making a 500 or 600 page ebook for this particular camera. And so if you want to access that, just head over to patreon.com/Mark Gaylor. I do have ebooks, Q&A forums, member-only seminars, and users can download the raw files and camera setup files from that support channel as well. I cover pretty much all of the late model alpha cameras with the 600 and 700 page ebooks, and I have plenty of 1 and 2 hour seminars on a range of different photographic topics on the support channel. It's a $10 US subscription, and you can unsubscribe at any time. There are no contracts or commitments. I think this RX1R III is going to become a modern day classic. It might not sell in massive quantities, but I think in 10 years time it'll be as collectible as the RX1R Mark II is at this particular time. So I don't think you're going to lose too much, because if Sony abandoned the RX1R line, this is going to be hot property for the smallest full frame camera pretty much ever made. Okay, I'm Mark Gaylor, Sony Digital Imaging Ambassador, and I'll catch you online or on Patreon shortly.